question I have for you. So regarding foreclosure, I know before attorneys, you know, when consumers used to go see attorneys, the first thing they said, just let the house go to foreclosure. What is your take on that now? I mean,
well, certainly since the end of December, with FHA now making it clear that even if someone needs to file bankruptcy,
yes.
The FHA is going to look much more kindly upon a person who has done a short sale.
Okay.
Even if they have to file bankruptcy, we would rather for them to do a short sale. So there is a lot of incentives for people, for borrowers who intend to buy other properties,
right.
Going forward. We would really, I mean, for the good of all of us,
right.
we would like you to do short sales if possible. It doesn't help anyone's neighborhood to have houses that have been abandoned, have been boarded up.
And banks are catching up to that, because banks are finally
right.
coming to it that, you know what, if this house goes to foreclosure versus us helping and doing a short sale, we're going to end up losing $40,000 to $50,000,
right.
because some homeowners, they get so upset, they rip the house, they tore things apart,
right.
and they take off and just abandon the property, versus if you short sell,
right.
you can keep the property nice and be able to transfer it to a new owner.
Right, and we certainly want people to be very clear that you know, there are real problems with waste when people leave properties and they take any fixtures which are attached.
Right.
And the banks are catching up with those people. People need to understand that even if they are going to allow the property to be sold in a foreclosure, they need to leave that house in good shape, and they are also responsible for that house until title is transferred. So if they have HOA dues, they need to mow the lawn, they need to take care of the pool, because people come into me and they have all these HOA assessments, city fines, things that, especially the city fines, which I cannot take care of in bankruptcy.
Right.
You know, these abatement issues. We really need to be good neighbors to each other.
Right. Right. Let's talk about foreclosure now.
Okay.
We kind of talked about, do we miss anything on short sale? We got that pretty much down.
That's good.
With the recourse, non-recourse,
right.
the golden ticket. Let's talk about foreclosure a little bit now, please.
Well, the foreclosure, just as we said, the foundation is determining whether you have the golden ticket,
yes.
or you have non-recourse debt, or you have recourse debt.
Yes.
If you have non-recourse debt,
yes.
even if it's the first and the second, so it was an 80-20, but
right.
you never refinanced
right.
it, that person is going to be able to allow that property to foreclose, and they will have no personal liability, they will have no tax liability. The problem occurs when people have refinanced the property or they have taken subsequent loans against the property.
Right.
Because what the law tells us in California is the lender who forecloses, the foreclosing lender, waives their right to come after the borrower.
Right.
But anyone who is junior to the foreclosing lender is called a sold out junior. So even though that sold out junior lost their lien, remember that's the second part,
yes.
what is still there? The promise to pay.
That's right.
That's where you get these letters from Real Time and Green Tree and saying, you know, you owe us $100,000. And these people
right.
come in and they say, but the property was foreclosed.
Right.
And I go, but you still have your promise to pay. Which,
that's right.
You know, and if they have other credit card debt, it's not quite as bad. You add the credit card debt and the $90,000 and
right.
But if they had no credit card debt and they didn't understand the law, that's really the problem. What the law tells us on the tax is if the person will file bankruptcy before, then I can capture that cancellation of debt.
That's very good. So
Oh,
if somebody,
yes.
so if somebody's home goes to foreclosure and then they come to you and say, "Help me," it's too late. Game
Too late.
over.
Game over. Because what 108 of the Internal Revenue Code sets up is a hierarchy for priority of cancellation, excluding cancellation of debt. The number one is you file bankruptcy before the taxable event.
Okay.
If the person doesn't, we hope that they're insolvent.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who think they are insolvent who are not, though. Because the tricky thing on insolvency is if you have a pension or a profit sharing, money in that 401k, while it may be excluded in a bankruptcy, it is counted for insolvency. So if you have someone who works for Apple or somebody Chevron or Allied Waste who may have hundreds of thousands, that person is not going to be, in many cases, determined to be insolvent.
But Joan, but if they have a 40, 50,000 and they're 300,000 or 400,000, the equity upside down, they'll still be okay, because if you take
No, they won't, because they're only insolvent to the extent they don't have assets. But these people have assets.
Wow, so if they have a $30,000 in their 401k and they're $500,000 upside down,
They still have $30,000 in their 401k. We're not so much worried about the $30,000 person. It's the person that has $300,000, or the fireman, the policeman who's entitled to a huge pension down the road. Those are the people who absolutely need to get advice. I mean, like this woman who I had recently. She works for a company and has a lot of money in her 401k. She has $53,000 in tax liability now from the short sale that she never would have had she filed bankruptcy prior to the short sale. She still could have done the short sale.
Prior to the short sale.
Absolutely, before the taxable event.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that if, let's say somebody comes to me and they want to do a short sale, and I send them to you, and you see there's going to be a problem, could I initiate the short sale and do that? Because usually when you do a bankruptcy, they stop it. The bank stops everything. So how does that work?
So what we encourage people to do is to file bankruptcy. They can certainly start the short sale after they file bankruptcy.
Okay.
But because the title companies will not issue title, they won't issue title insurance until the case closes, which is about 4 months in a Chapter 7 from the date they file. We would rather they start the short sale right after they file bankruptcy.
So after they file bankruptcy, start the short sale.
And you can certainly do it before, because sometimes what happens, people start it and then they realize, oh, I probably should see someone about this. They hear from a friend, oh, I saw Joan, or I saw somebody, I need to see somebody. So they will have started, but it will have to wait, because the courts are not inclined to help along a borrower doing a short sale when they file bankruptcy, because in fact a short sale does help a person's credit, and so the court's not really inclined
but
to
if it's
help
a foreclosure or a short sale, if you see that they got money, it doesn't matter. They better be thinking about that bankruptcy.
They really need to see someone like me to understand their personal liability, and then I send them to a CPA tax attorney to make sure, if I believe they have a tax liability issue, to have that analyzed.
Now what if the guy has a $500,000 pension, and they want to file bankruptcy, especially with these bankruptcy laws that came into effect many years ago?
BAPSIFA?
Yeah. So don't they say, oh, you can't have all your $500,000, you need to give some of that to the bank?
No.
That's protected?
Absolutely. Your pension and your profit sharing is protected to the extent it's necessary for your support.
What about 401k?
And 401k is protected too. The only time where we see a problem with these people is if it's truly excessive. Sometimes we've seen doctors and lawyers where they have millions and millions of dollars in these plans, and then the court will step in and say that is not necessary for your reasonable support.
And also, in bank world, they call strategic foreclosure.
Right.